أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الرحمن علم القرآن خلق الإنسان علمه البيان. الشمس والقمر بحسبان والنجم والشجر يسجدان والسماء رفعها ووضع الميزان ألا تطغوا في الميزان وأقيموا الوزن بالقسط ولا تخسروا الميزان. والأرض وضعها للأنام فيها فاكهة والنخل ذات الأكمام والحب ذو العصف والريحان. فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. خلق الإنسان من صلصال كالفخار وخلق الجان من مارج من نار. فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. رب المشرقين ورب المغربين. فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. مرج البحرين يلتقيان بينهما.
Welcome all of you to Hijra Club Ramadan Series 2025 Session 1. And to commence the entire session, I have the pleasure to invite Sheikh Haruna Zagoon-Sayeed, the spokesperson for His Eminence Imam, to lead us or to usher us into the hands of Allah Azza wa Jalla.
God, we want to give you thanks and praises in a manner most befitting of the holiness and heights. Thank you for this morning. Thank you for giving us the grace of the month of Ramadan. Thank you for giving us the ability to fast and the assurance of all the blessings that is associated with the month of Ramadan. We are here to begin our first session of the Hijra Club lecture series for Ramadan 2025. For us to be able to do so, as Almighty Allah, we want to ask you to join us and to guide us in everything. Guide the chairman, strengthen and inspire our speakers and our panel members to be able to give that which will be the utmost in terms of the benefit we want to derive from this gathering. Allahumma inna nas'aluka mujibata rahmatik wa azaima maghfiratik wa salamata min kulli ghalimatin min kulli wa fawza bil jannah wa najata min an-nar bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin ya rabbal alamin. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. آمين. صلى الله عليه وسلم.
So for today's program, we will be given the utmost opportunity to know the name we'll be hearing over the years, Hijra Club. What is it all about? What is the rationale behind its formation? What have they done years down the line to this end? what even motivates today's particular topic that we want to handle. Don't forget, today we are looking at Islam, global conflict and poverty. Whichever perspective that our honorable guests and the panelists are going to digest it, will leave that aspect of the discussion to them. Having said that, there is a need for us to occupy this higher seat over there. By virtue of the powers vested in him by the chairman of the club, he said he has delegated the responsibility for another equally important person to assume the seat. The person to assume the seat is one of the few Muslims who have taken the mantle to defend the territorial boundaries of the Republic of Ghana. He did not only wear the green camouflage or the OG. He advanced and became an expert when it comes to issues of channel and telecommunications. Without much effort, information about him, or you may want to share us to us, that is the only one general from Zongo community, Nima right here, who has moved from the rank of ordinary person, lieutenant, all the way to become general, and retired honorable with it. At this moment, General Abdullahi, you are mostly welcome to take the seat as the chair.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Usually I would want to say a few things, but when I was informed that I have been forced a very, very important opportunity to share my thoughts with you and to influence one or two things. Now, looking at the time, we should have started this function around 10 o'clock. It's almost 11. So we are going to cut a lot of things out. My intervention will come in if we have time. Other than that, I would want to call on Sheikh Albiao to get this function started. I accept this responsibility, as an honor and a special privilege. And it is service to me, myself, and to our community. Thank you very much.
Responsibility for General to assume today's activity. Majority of us want to know who is that chairman himself and what does he make, what is his makeup. So the chairman of Hijra Club is a philanthropist, a good Samaritan, someone that has personally witnessed several occasions people come to his office with issues of medical school fees, a lot of them, and he did indeed respond to them. He is a businessman, one of the few within the Muslim circle who, when you approach them with the issue of business idea, they will sell it to you at the fingertips to go on. He is the founder and the owner of Dar es Salaam group of companies. And these companies have so many subsidiaries beneath it. With your permission, Chair, our chairman of Hijra Club is in the person of Alhaji Yusuf Ibrahim. Chairman, you are most welcome. I also want to immediately recognize the presence of Asi in our midst. Father, you are most welcome. Session, we are coming to have a discussion on issues of Islam, global conflict, and poverty. I equally also mention that we will hear Hijra Club. Some of us are here as beneficiaries of Hijra Club, scholarship support. But what is Hijra Club? What is the rationale behind their formation? For us to have in-depth knowledge about this topic, I would like to humbly invite Alhaji Tanko to give us a brief history about Hijra Club. Atakbir.
Assalamu alaikum. So the Hijra Club. I have a very long piece on the Hijra Club. However, since our chairman, who's a general, has requested that we shorten everything, I'll give you the brief history of the club. The Hijra Club is a non-profit social club that was established in November 1992 by a group of Muslim professionals, intellectuals, and businessmen with the sole aim of improving the lot of the Muslim communities in social, religious, and educational educational sectors. The idea to form the Hijra Club was initiated by Alhaji Yusuf Ibrahim, whom was just mentioned, of Dar es Salaam Group of Companies, and the late Dr. Abu Ahmed, formerly of the Bank for Housing. They proceeded to invite the late Dr. Hassan Mohammed, who was previously an active member of the defunct Crescent Club, and also the acting governor of the Bank of Ghana then. They then went ahead to extend an invitation to the late Alhaji Abbas Kilwan and Alhaji Kassim. The five gentlemen became the founders and trustees of the Hijra Club. The founders had their first formal meeting at the residence of Alhaji Yusuf Ibrahim at the airport. It is significant to acknowledge that a number of prominent Muslims joined the club and finally established the club. The club was inaugurated in 1993 at the British Council. In attendance were the Chief Imam of the Republic of Ghana, Dr. Osman Nuhu Sharutu, Kalmoni of Japan Motors, Alhaji Mumuni Baumia, and among others. The founders adopted the trusteeship model for the governance, management, and administration of the club towards achieving its priorities. According to the founders, the trusteeship model emphasizes that the membership of the club are financiers of all activities, projects, programs of the club. May Allah have mercy on all the departed souls. So the trusteeship that I mentioned, out of the 5, 4 have passed. May Allah bless their souls. So we have a new group of trusteeship. And the new group consists of Alhaji Yusuf Ibrahim, Alhaji M. Gado Muhammad, former Managing Director of Cocoa Marketing Company, Alhaji Abdul Rahman Isaka, former MD of National Industry Company, Gamot, Alhaji Muhammad Amin Futa, a civil engineer and former Bank for Housing and Construction. These are the additional members of the trusteeship. Currently, Hijra Club is focused on financing support for brilliant but needy students in Ghanaian tertiary institutions. As of today, I believe we've sponsored 350 students in the tertiary education system in Ghana. The Hijra Club does a lot more than scholarships. During the Volta region floods, the Hijra Club contributed. At one point, we heard of a family in distress in the Western region. We went and helped them, and many more things. Again, as I said, there's a long list. We'll send them out so that you can all get an idea of what we do. I just want to finish off with just a list of names of people that I think I have to mention who are also part of the Hijra Club. We have, of course, our chairman, Alhaji General Ahmad Kardo Abdullahi, Alhaji Sami Suka Raima, Dr. Umar Ahmed, Rear Admiral Munir Tahir, Lawyer Sheriff Toure Abbas, Alhaji Garba Ibrahim, Alhaji Bashiru Sakibu, Alhaji Al-Hassan Sule, Alhaji Yusuf Ibrahim, yet another Alhaji Yusuf Ibrahim, I think we call him Abuda, Sheikh Mustafa Ibrahim, Sheikh Armiyaw Shaibu, Alhaji Yakubu Musa, Alhaji Ahmed Muhammad, former IGP, Alhaji Amin Futa Uluba, yet another Alhaji Amin Futa, and Alhaji Adamu Muhammad. There are a longer list. I'm sure I've missed some very important people. Please forgive me for that. But I just needed to mention these particular names. Thank you very much.
Next on our program is to set the board for the purpose why we are here. To do that, I humbly invite Alhaji Amin Futa to support the general. I'm told the field of army, I'm not physical power alone, so kindly support the general for us over here. Alhaji Amin is a trustee of Hijra Club and also management board member of this national mosque complex that we are using currently. Next on our program is to have the presentation on the topic Islam, global conflict, and poverty. And to do justice to this topic, for us, is this personality who has distinguished himself in so many fields. He is a professional teacher, a graduate of University of Ghana, a graduate of Shams in Egypt. Once Shams is mentioned, then you know this is somebody whose field is into language of Arabic. Beyond that, he has masters in international diplomacy and affairs from University of Ghana Diplomacy Center. That's this year. He said that is not enough. He wants to impart on the knowledge of the third generation, and therefore journey all the way to University of Birmingham to obtain his PhD in Islam and peace building. And that tells you clearly why he is a person to deliver the talk for us. He is again a researcher and has published a lot of books and made contribution to our current system of education, both that of Islamic and the mainstream, with team that he led through Baraka Policy Project. I have the honor to invite our main speaker in the person of Dr. Haruna Zagoon-Sayeed to take us into action. You are most welcome.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Our Chairman General, our distinguished leaders and members of the Hijra Club, the great Hijra Club, distinguished panelists, my eminent teachers, malams, mentors present here, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I wish to render my gratitude and appreciation to Hijra Club for inviting me to be part of this important discussion. For me, I think this initiative is a very wonderful initiative, especially in the month of Ramadan. If we look at the verse that invites Muslims to fast, that verse invites a community, not just single individuals. So Quran chapter 2 verse 1, 8-3 says, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu, first, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu, oh you who believe, community of believers. He didn't say, Ya ayyuhal muslimun. So that is one. Then when it was talking about fasting, it also says, Kutiba alaykum siyam, Kutiba alaykum. Fasting has been prescribed unto you. The addressee is in plural. Kutiba alaykum. And when Allah was saying, Kama kutiba alayzina min qablikum, alayzina min qablikum, those before you, as it was written for those before you. Now this is la'allakum tattaqun. La'allakum, not la'allakum, so that you as a community may be God consciousness, may be pious, okay, may be good Muslims. And so on this, I think that in Ramadan, we are supposed to do reflective analysis on our state as a community. It's not just enough for us to just fast and break the fast, but it's a time to reflect not only on our individual selves, but also the state of our community. And that's why I think that Hijra Club, by initiating this, has done so well, and we pray that the discussions here will reflect in the way the Hijra Club leads the Muslim community in Ghana. The chairman, because of your caution, indeed we have spent some time, so I wouldn't spend so much time. I would prefer to see the panelists discussing the topic. But chairman, my topic, the way it is crafted, it looks more like a theme than a focused topic. And so the way it is, anybody can take it from a different perspective. There are many perspectives that we can take this from. But I will take it from this 7 main perspective or 6 main perspective. I'll give a small highlight on the state of conflict in the world. I will also look at Islam and conflict in the world. I will also look at why Muslims should be concerned about conflict in the world. I will then look at the nexus, the link between conflict and poverty. And that's what I think is not far-fetched. Then I also come home to look at conflict and the development of the Muslim community in Ghana. One lesson I learned when I was doing my master's in international affairs, and I remember very vividly my lecturer who said that international affairs is the aggregate of domestic affairs. International affairs, global affairs is the aggregate of all what nationals do with domestic affairs. And so you can't talk about international affairs when you are not focused on certain domestic issues. And so I will come down to our Muslim community and see our affairs. Then I will give the full forward in terms of lessons from Muslim community in Ghana and conclude. But even before I start, the chairman, I want to define my own definition of conflict. Conflict, as I will use them, I will use it within this lecture. Many scholars have given different definitions of conflict. Definitions, and this one is mine. My definition for conflict today is conflict is any thought, action, or inaction that defiles the peace and obstructs development and progress. These are concepts I'm going to speak. Conflict is all about any idea or thought, any action or inaction that defiles peace and also obstructs development. Mr. Chairman, the world today is witnessing diverse conflicts. And I think all of us should know that conflict is everywhere across the globe. When we come to our part of the globe, the West Africa, we know we are inundated with a lot of conflict issues. We know what is happening in Nigeria. We know what is happening in Burkina Faso. We know what is happening even in Ivory Coast. We know what is happening in Mali. We know what is happening in Nigeria. Conflict has engulfed West Africa. And even Ghana, just a few weeks ago, I heard BBC saying that there are about 300 Ghanaians who fight in the Burkina Faso conflict. And this one, the BBC reporter went there and interviewed people who are actually fighting, in that conflict by the Ghanaians. And so we are not, excluded from this. In Africa, generally, you find conflict. We have conflict in Ethiopia. Ethiopia and their neighbors. We have conflict in Sudan. We have conflict in Somalia, where you may hear the issue of Al-Shabaab. So across Africa, if you go to Cameroon, they are also facing some form of conflict and violence there. In the world, the general conflict that we know the Palestine-Israel conflict, which has been there, and it escalated every day. We know the recent one, Russia and Ukraine conflict, which everybody knows. We know what happened in Syria, and so we can't say Syria is off the hook. Okay, even though you've had, some revolution that actually now is reviving the country. But so just yesterday, we're told some fighters for the old regime were killed. Many, about 70 or so, were killed just yesterday. We know how Afghanistan, is struggling with, even internal conflict. Not them and others, but within themselves. And so conflicts have been across the world. And that is why I find this topic very important. That's why I want to thank Hijra Club for wanting to discuss the issue of conflict and how it affects us as people, as humanity. Mr. Chairman, I will begin with what Islam says about the opposite of conflict. I wouldn't waste my time talking about what Islam says about conflict, but the opposite of conflict, which is what we want. And what is the opposite of conflict? Peace. Peace is opposite of conflict. Mr. Chairman, the overarching objective of Islam, if you put Islam and what we do together, all what a Muslim must achieve is peace. In whatever form, ways that you do your Islam, the end result, the objective for Islam is peace. And so whatever we do it whether spiritually or in terms of material, it must result in peace. And that's why Allah himself calls himself as-Salam. One of the attributes of Allah is as-Salam. And these attributes are actually enshrined in our Tawhidic belief. Allah is one and indivisible one. And yet within that one, Allah has certain characteristics and attributes. And one of his attributes is Salam. Mr. Chairman, Salam means peace. But what is that peace? What is that peace? It is it's a peace that must reflect your own personal tranquility. It is a peace that must reflect your relationship with God. It is a peace that must connect you and your environment and your fellow human beings. And so, if we say a Muslim is at peace, it means he is at peace with himself. He is at peace with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he or she is at peace with fellow human beings and the environment. And so, what it means is that as a Muslim, conflict cannot come from you. Your everything must be peace. Conflict must not come from you. I'm not saying you cannot be engaged in conflict, but conflict shouldn't come from you. Conflict, especially that leads to war, violence, should not come from you. Because your ultimate goal as a Muslim, whether here on earth or the hereafter, is peace. The Chairman, we are going to get to, inshallah, the last 10 days of Ramadan. And we are supposed to observe what we call Legon. The German, that verse, that talks about Legon, the light of power, talks about peace. That even the angels who are coming unto us come with peace and nothing but peace. The German Muslims greet, even now I did, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, every single time we meet ourselves, right? Assalamu alaikum, oh, peace be upon you, peace be upon you. And you also say, peace be upon you. The German, in our 5 daily prayers, we say this salam, this peace, within the tashahhud that we do. Okay? You know, your prayer will not be complete without doing the tashahhud. Muslims here, the special prayer that we pray, we do in salat islam. And then when we finish too, we say, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, peace be upon you, peace be upon you. And the right hand. It tells that this religion is for peace and nothing else. Mr. Chairman, scholars of conflicts or peace studies have defined 2 types of peace. We have what they call the positive peace and the negative peace. And this is what was defined by somebody they generally call the father of peace studies. It's called Johann Galtung. And he says negative peace is just absence of war. Negative peace is absence of war. When there's no war, in Ghana there's no war. Okay? But it doesn't mean that there's peace. When there's no war, it's called negative peace. And we know anything which is negative is not correct, isn't it? And he says positive peace is the integration of the human society. And when we say integration of human society, we are referring to a society where human beings can interact for development. Human beings can interact for progress. When human beings can be freely, engage one another. And so, scholars have looked at Islamic peace, and they say the Islamic peace that we have is positive peace, a total holistic peace that doesn't warrant aggression, a peace that will not need or is against aggression. In the Quran, Muslims are allowed to fight only when it is self-defense. Muslims are allowed to fight only when it is what? Self-defense. All the 5 verses in the Quran, none of them say, that you should be the aggressor as Muslim community or as a Muslim. There is no aggression. And so that's what I said, that you can be invited into war or into some form of violence by shouldn't rather what come from you. As we sit here right now, which is a natural cause. If somebody comes here attacking us, naturally we must defend ourselves. And all the facts you might have heard the Muslim community before have done, especially during the time of the Prophet and then after the Prophet, were all self-defense. You can't stand up as a Muslim and just go fighting somebody who has not done anything to you. The chairman, in all the conflict that we have in the world today, in some way, Islam has been implicated. In fact, in peace building, we said you can't discuss global conflict or global peace building without bringing Islam in it. Islam has become de facto actor in global conflict or global peace. Why? Because you find some groups who call themselves Muslims, who say they are fighting others, and in fact, who are the aggressors, and they call themselves, we are Muslims, they give themselves many names, many Islamic names, jihadists, many Islamic names. And they use Islam to do it. And so this has given some negative connotation to Islam in the minds of many. So you come to Nigeria, we have Boko Haram. You come to Somalia, we have Al-Shabaab. Remember Al-Qaeda. We remember ISIS. Okay? Remember what they call Islam. Those fighting in the Sahel. And most of them are doing it in the name of Islam. And so Islam as a religion that speaks peace and talks about peace has been implicated in conflict. And sometimes we say, oh, these are not Muslims. These are not Muslims. No, they don't understand Islam. They are quoting verses of the Quran and saying that the Quran says they should go and kill. And the most unfortunate aspect of it, Mr. Chairman, is the fact that in their activities, the most victims are other Muslims. Muslims are the victims. Those who they kill most are Muslims. If you want to calculate how many people Boko Haram has killed, about 80% will be Muslims. Go and count how many places of worship Boko Haram has bombed. You can have 90% being masajid, being Muslim. And yet they say they are fighting for Islam. So Muslims are most victims in this type of conflict that come from some group who call themselves Muslims. Chairman, I will now look at why Muslims must be concerned about conflict or about peace in the world. From what I've said earlier, and because I want to cut it short, there are many examples in the Quran that I can give. Islam is about peace. And that peace is not only just about the Muslim or the Muslim community having peace, but that peace is expected to be perpetuated across the world. When the Quran, Allah says in the Quran to the Prophet, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. Allah says, I didn't send you, O Prophet, no, to the world, except to become a mercy for the world. So our Islamic peace is supposed to be sold to the world. Our Islamic peace is expected not to be seen in whatever Muslims find themselves. And so if the world is bereft of peace, the world is not having peace. I'm not saying it should be our fight only, but as a Muslim who knows that Islam is just about peace, we should be concerned and we should be worried. And more especially when a lot of our Muslim communities are lacking peace, are into conflict. A lot of Muslim communities across the world, are in one form of conflict or the other. Chair, I will now look at the nexus, the connection between conflict and poverty. And like I said, it's something that your mind can pick. Whatever there is conflict, there is no development. Whatever there is conflict, there is no progress. Wherever there is conflict, people don't have freedom to even interact, to generate ideas that can be turned into development. And so, conflicts seem to impoverish the people who have been inflicted with conflict. Conflict seems to bring poverty in communities who are facing conflict. Conflict destroy constructive ideas, not only physical, infrastructure that we have and the human beings, but even if you are in conflict zone, bringing constructive ideas that can be turned into development. And so conflict really brings poverty. It impoverishes. And I've not seen anywhere where conflict is going on and the community have progressed or have developed. But having said that, Chairman, I want to say that there are people who benefit from conflict. Okay, and I remember my professor, when I was doing my master's, telling me that Zagoon, at that time, I think it was the Liberian conflict, and he said, I wish this conflict can stop, but if it stops, I will lose my job. I will lose my daily rate. Because his expertise is in conflict, and he's consulted on conflict. But apart from that, there are people who actually champion conflicts because they get what they have to get out of it. There are kingpins of conflict who only succeed and get reward when there are conflicts. But I might say there are few. There are few that we can nip in the bud if the general community is well strong enough to tackle the conflict. But there are people who always want to bring divisions among people in order to gain from it. And so clearly conflict is something that brings poverty, but again some few benefit from it. Chair, I will now bring you to our local plane, the Ghanaian community, or the Ghana as a nation, and also Muslims in Ghana as a community. Chairman, there are so many forms of conflict within Ghana. And I know we know so many chieftains conflicts. We know recently of what is happening in Boko. We know Alabanyo and Nkoye, right? And there are many other pockets of conflict within Ghana. And I'm even thinking that in Ghana today, and I say that the peace of Ghana is very fragile. The Ghana's peace that we see, peace, is very fragile because there are certain hidden tensions, even between religious groups. And you know that when something small happens, you find, the whole Ghana shaking. The issue of our Hijra, for instance, has been a conflict point. The issue of Muslims attending mission schools, we know about that. And even recent times, somebody has taken Wesley girls to the court. We know about the fact that some Christians go to Muslim schools, and they are also forced to go to the mosque. We know that. And we know that Muslims and Christians have been relating, but that relation is just at the surface. When it happens that we need to cooperate, sometimes it becomes lucky. But Chairman, within our Muslim community, we are also experiencing some form of conflict. And this conflict has stampeded our progress. Chairman, we have intergenerational conflicts where there's a conflict between the old folks and the younger ones, the youth. And I have witnessed many in some mosques where the old folks wouldn't allow the youth to be in charge of the mosque, where the mosque committee is full of old people. Okay, where there is so much mistrust between the young and the old. We also have what we call interpersonal conflicts. That's one of the things that has actually been the bane of development of Muslims in this country. We have so much personality clashes. And because of personality clashes, we are not able to agree and achieve anything that we want to do. We undercut one another. And Chair, I can tell you, if a Muslim is given any position and a Muslim is removed from that position, those who instigated that are likely to be Muslims. I can't give you examples here. There are some examples I cannot give to you here. But I know for sure that there's that interpersonal conflict, which has actually become a problem for the development of our community. I think we have intersectarian conflict. Okay? There's so much distrust between Muslim sects in this country. You know, we've worked hard, but we still have a lot to do to bring everybody, you know, together. And we also have even intra-sectarian problems. Intra means within one sect. Okay? Within Tijaniya, there's a problem. Within Al-Sunnah, there's a problem. Within Shia, there's a problem. There's intra-sectarian issues that have become endemic to our development. We also have religious-ethnic conflict. People have connected Islam with their ethnic groups, and they wouldn't have anybody come closer if you're not that particular ethnic group. And we call ourselves Muslims. And so we are in silos. Okay? You know, there mostly, you know, Muslims. I'm a Mushi, by the way. The Muslim.
I'm the government here.
You know, yeah. You know, and this one is Islam, but it's for the government. This one is for houses. That has been one of the frictions that we have in this country. Then we also have what I call inter-educational orientation conflicts. So we are the book people. Okay, we want secular education. We have this, so we don't want to get our, you know, people who didn't go to school and they went to the Arab world, okay, to study. We don't have anything to do with it. Is there? And then those from the Arab world, they come and they think they know Islam more than anybody else. So if you have not been to the Arab world and you cannot speak Arabic, you can't be part of the conversation. And even within them, there are groupings. There are those who say if you are not saying from Saudi Arabia, and there's something that part. There are the Egyptian people who say we send in Egypt, not it. No, there are Libya. Okay? And so all this, so we are in silos. Our conflicts are in pockets. Different. So before we can resolve from pocket to pocket to the national, it will take many years. We have conflicts, but we must do. Chair, this has caused much disunity among Muslims in Ghana, and in fact, this has impoverished us. That made us become more, you know, poor, you know, than before. Because they say unity is strong, right? But when we are, you know, united, definitely you can't have the strength that you want to have. Chair, I have done some analysis presently about the state of Muslim development. And I've realized that we have over 100 years deficit, development deficit. Over 100 years development deficit that needs to be filled. And how did I get my deficit? I just looked at when the Ahmadiyya Muslim Mission came to Ghana. And you know, before Ahmadiyya Muslim Mission came to Ghana, Islam was here long before, isn't it? Ahmadiyya Muslim Mission came to Ghana in 1921. And so I started my research from there. And I was just looking at education. I was looking at how far have we come as a community when it comes to education. And I realized that since that time, as a community, not as individuals, as a community, we cannot post, we can't count any Muslim school as one of the best schools, okay, in the first 10, in the first 20, in the first 30. And as we speak, it's the same. And so, as a community, we don't have, such kind of infrastructure in terms of education. Of course, most of the churches have developed their own universities, right? Do we have one? Don't tell me Islamic University.
At least it's Islamic.
At least Islamic. So, Chairman, on the education front, that's why I was happy when I heard today that Hijra Club is giving scholarships. I'm so happy to hear that. But education is the bedrock for development. Without education, forget about development. And yet, for over 100 years, we will not be able to do things that will propel us. I'm not saying we don't have schools. As we speak now, at the primary level, we have over 2,000 schools as Muslims. At the secondary school level, we have over 40 schools. I know, I have done a lot of research in this. But all these schools cannot be said to be a very quality schools. But our Islamic education is an offer. The Muslim community have refused to own Islamic education to make their schools stronger and quality. And primary school, you don't have a good foundation at primary school. How do you get a good secondary school to go? The BEC was so good. It will not lead you to a good senior high school. A bad senior high school will not lead you to having admission to universities. Our children are going to school, they are going to universities. But if you compare the percentage and where we were coming from, even at Legon, you may say, oh, now we see more Muslims going to school. If you look at the percentage, you will cry. Because Islam was the first religion to come to this country. The first foreign religion. And if you compare the numbers, we shall have done better. And we have a lot of deficit. Chair, my time is almost up. But the way forward. My first point is that if we say we are Muslims, then we must be peaceful at all times and also engender peace in whatever we find ourselves. Number two, we must look at the issue of unity. We can be united and still remain in our various organizations and various sects. And that is why in recent times, the idea of National Muslim Conference of Ghana, for me, sounds good in my ears. We can have our various orientations, various organizations, but there should be a point where we all meet. Because like I said, that gap that has been created for over 100 years, no single organization can fill that gap. There's no single organization or sect that can fill that deficit of development that we are having today in our Muslim community. We need everybody. We need all of us together to be able to make impact. Chair, we must stop what I call enemy image, where we deliberately, intentionally pick some people as our enemies because we don't want to see their faces. Because if they are there, somebody will not feel comfortable. Chair, we need to engage everybody. If we want to grow and take our rightful place as a community, within communities in Ghana, we must get to everybody. We must stop destroying ourselves. And we must face the reality of the time. We can't continue to be ostriches where we bury our head in sand while the rest of the body is out. We must face our own challenges and be bold to tackle them. And like I said, nobody, if we don't face our problems, nobody can face it for us, even government. Government have many challenges. They can only come to facilitate to help us, but not to face the problems for us. Chairman, I'll end by saying that Allah says, "Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim." Allah will not change the condition of a people unless they start the changing process themselves. And I think that if we get to the work, we can change our circumstances for the better. So,
I was watching the main speaker and he skipped through a lot of pages. I'm sure the time available wouldn't have been sufficient for him. For a subject matter like what we have today, I think the time we have is just too small. We're talking about Islam, global conflict, and poverty. Indeed, let me just add to the poverty aspect of what you say. Poverty in modern times is not the absence, it's not only the absence of money in your pocket. If you are vulnerable, you are poor. If you are marginalized, if you are excluded from mainstream society, you are poor. So a lot of us, walking around are very poor. And if you look at our zones, you look at our inner cities, and even within the urban areas, majority of the urban and rural poor are Muslim communities. So the poverty is endemic and it's related in some way with us. Is it Islam which is creating that? Is it Islam which is fostering all those things? So I think the tone has been set for the panelists to do justice to whatever they have for us. Except to say that around 12:30, the prayers will be called, and I'm sure that will bring our activities here to a close. So we are looking at 12:30 as the time of closing this session. There's something we call time and space in the military. So during the time appreciation, I'm sorry to restrict our panelists to 10 minutes each. I know you have also prepared very, very well, but if you are going to be given the time that you require, I am sure some of us will not get the opportunity to ask a few questions or contribute to the issues that we are tackling now. I would want a situation where he has spoken, you also get the opportunity to lecture us on your viewpoints, and then the general public will also get some opportunity to make contributions, ask questions for better clarity. Like I said, we are only scratching the surface of this subject. And the idea is to start a conversation for it to be taken forward. So without saying too much, let me hand over to the MC, 10 minutes per panelist, and then we go to the general public for questions and answers and other contributions. If there are opportunities, some of us will come in again for closing remarks. If the prayer is called, we will go with the closing remarks in the mosque. Inshallah. Salaam alaikum. It's important that when we have such sessions, we look at the issue beyond Islam and look at it globally. God did not create us without a purpose. He created us and put us within a group. And if we understand each other and relate to each other very well, and we have harmonious relationships and peaceful coexistence, that will help the cause, our own cause and others' cause. So, Mr. Priest, we thank you very much for coming and bear with us. I think you came before most of us because we couldn't keep our timings, and you are still with us. So we thank you.
And brother Zagoon, we have invited certain experts who are what it takes to make a contribution on the subject. So the panel discussion now will proceed as I invite our panelists to take their seats over there. So, Sheikh Dr. Sibawe Zakaria, who for University of Science and Technology. He has had a long period of teaching experience in his life, teaching from the primary level up to the university level. He's my colleague. I have known him for all these years. Currently, he has retired but is on contract at KMUST, and then now actively teaching at the Islamic University here in Accra. Please, can you welcome him? Chief Amaraba. The next is another very good friend and good brother, Imam Hussein Abdurrahim Hussein. I say Imam because that's the role that he's placed, but he's ACP. He's a police officer who is also the National Imam of the Ghana Police Service. He's also with us. Yeah, I hope he's there. Imam Hussein. Yes. Please, take your seat. Another younger brother, these are all my friends and brothers, I know them all. So. Dr. Muhammad Hafiz, who is also a senior lecturer at the University of Ramadan, his expedition takes into the nomenclature to assist us. And then the youngest, the last and not the least among them is Muhammad Bashir, who is a postgraduate student also at the Peacekeeping Training Center and BISA. Yes, so like we've been told, we do not have enough time, but I think we'll take your initial thoughts generally. Just 2-3 minutes, you're going to share it, your general thoughts as this broad this topic as presented by our lecturer. And I think I will begin with Sheikh Sibawe Zakaria.
A very interesting discussion. And the presenter did mention that the topic looks to him more like a team, because there was no particular focus on that. Anyway, one took it, one will be able to speak on it. Islam. What can you say about Islam? It's a way of life, it's a religion, and Muslims believe that Islam has been the religion from the Almighty since the creation of man, and that it might have come in different versions, it might have come to different ages, but it has always been the same Islam. It might have come under Prophet Adam, Noah, Moses, Abraham, Jesus, and ultimately Muhammad. But Islam has been that same religion. Of course, in the different ages, different versions of Islam has been practiced. At our time and age, Islam has come as a very comprehensive religion that leaves no space unturned. And so we see that Islam is a way of life. And so everything about the human being, about the individual, about the community, about the society, about the world, Islam makes an impact and an input. Even though here we have just specified global conflict, and the presenter will make us to understand that indeed all the conflicts that we have going on today, whether it's in Ghana or particularly elsewhere, you might find that somehow there is some aspect of Islam associated with that particular conflict. One of the biggest conflicts today is the Palestinian and Israeli conflict, and we do know that indeed Islam is a mainstay, is the main religion of the Palestinian people, and the Muslim countries have had a particular idea of how the conflict should end. Recently, we know that Egypt did say that they have their own idea of how to reconstruct Palestine, and therefore they are not in favor of the suggestion made by Trump. And of course, we know that in many other Islamic countries there are all kinds of conflicts. What those conflicts tend to say or tend to do to the people's minds is the two major words: Islamophobia and Islamophilia. Islamophobia means the kind of fear that people have of Islam and of Muslims. And it's global. Wherever you go, you might find that, especially in the Western world, people tend to be very suspicious of Muslims. This is as a result of a minority of Muslims who have precipitated all forms of conflict in various parts of the world. And so the negative perception is there about Islamic Muslims. But look at the majority of Muslims, peace-loving people. And as the presenter said, when we say our daily prayers, we end it, Salamu alaikum, peace be unto you, peace be unto you. When we meet each other, we say Salamu alaikum, peace be unto you. And then we also know that Islam insists that you must begin the salam, and that even if there is a conflict, the one who begins to say salam is a better person in the sight of Allah. And the Quran tells in the Surah Hijra that indeed, when two of us are fighting, we should not sit back and just stand aloof and watch, but we must make effort towards ensuring that there is peace. And that even if it happens that in our effort, one particular group does not seem to want peace, we should gang up against the one that does not want the peace to ensure that we enforce peace. This is how Islam talks about this issue of conflict. And I'm sure if we were to do that, indeed, there will be much less conflict that we are experiencing globally and as well as in this country. Look at the issue of Boko, the conflict that has made Boko eventually a ghost town. A ghost town. And many people, in fact, if I think it's about 50% of non-Muslims and 50% Muslims in Boko, if not majority Muslim. What is happening to what Muslims are supposed to do to bring about the end of conflict with respect to the issue of the conflict in Boko? It means we are not doing enough to ensure that there is peace within and there is peace without. Indeed, the presenter mentioned that in our various, there is also intra-religious and inter-religious conflict. Indeed, we know that our various groups call it Tijaniya, call it Sunnah, call it Shia. There are internal conflicts. What can we do about that? Indeed, the issue of poverty, you might say that the Almighty God, knowing what Muslims are capable of doing, has made it compulsory that every Muslim contributes to the alleviation of poverty through either zakat or sadaqah. It's compulsory. It is one of the 5 pillars of Islam that as a Muslim, make sure that at the end of the year, if you have the means and the work without, then at least a percentage of your wealth must go into the alleviation of poverty. This is compulsory. You cannot be a good Muslim and not do zakat, except of course if you don't have the means to do that. And if you cannot do zakat, at least you can do sadaqah. And sadaqah is the voluntary charity. And that one, it doesn't matter whether you are rich or poor, and it goes to all kinds of people, Muslim or non-Muslim. Look at this edifice, this mosque that we are seeing, I mean the big national mosque, and this particular hall. It is out of some people's charity. It is part of the charitable act of some people. I'm told some brothers in Turkey are buying the mosque. And all over the country. Look at mosques that have been built by, for instance, Islamic Council for Development and Humanitarian Services. Mainly from funding coming from maybe some countries in the Arab world, especially the Kuwait Zakat House. And you find so many of them out of charity. This is happening. So indeed, we are not supposed to be poor people. Muslims, if only will take up the issue of zakat seriously as it's supposed to be, we are not supposed to be poor people. We can contribute and we have done. Let me say that Alhaji Yusuf Ibrahim, when we were in school in the 1980s, myself, Dr. Rabi to Ahmad, we once came to your office. We were then the executives of Jimsa in Legon. And what we needed was a video deck. You know, it was a Jimsa week. And we needed video deck to have a show to the Muslim students, you know, and none of us had a video deck. No lecturer in campus had a video deck that we could borrow, so we had to come to you in your office. I think the office was in Adabraka, and for us it was a spectacle. For me, it was a spectacle. We came to a Muslim brother's office, we were asked to come in, and he had to press a gadget to be able to open the door for us to enter. And then we entered, and after our talk, we went to the door. He has to press a gadget for the door to open for us to enter. I said, wow, Muslims have gone far. Then we borrowed this video there, came and showed the program to the Muslims that we are most grateful. That was in the 1982, I think, or 1982, when I was in my diploma in religious studies. And then, meanwhile, you have brought this small boy, my small boy, once my student advanced, talked to all of us, including me. You know, he said he worked with West Africa Exams Council. Before he did that, I had also been an examiner with West Africa Exams Council. And one of his students, one of his mates, in fact, one of his mates in the O-level Islamic studies, when he was asked to write about something that has to do with poets, you know, so what did he say? He says, Alhakum Takasur, Hatakum Makabir. When they die and they put you in your kabari, then you shall see. His classmate, another classmate of his about conflict. You know, he was saying, he was asked to describe the Battle of Badr. And he said, the Meccans are here, the Medinians are here. Then one man shout, not shout at all, the one man shout, Kai! Come and see. They rushed into each other. He was talking about conflict. You know, we have experienced Almighty Allah that we have taken this very wonderful initiative. And over the years, the Hijra Club has been an exemplary one. It has been an exemplary one. It tells us that if Muslims are able to organize, we can do a lot. I mean, just look at those who are no more among the former executive members of Hijra Club. We all know them. They were great people who served the Muslim community. And then once in retirement, they came together and did something that has left some edifices. Something that has been historical. Something that has brought about a lot of improvement in the Muslim community. Even just sponsoring the 350 students that they have done for now. It's something great. It's something great. So we pray that Muslims will continue to have the confidence to come together. You know, it's not about the large numbers of people coming together, but a few committed ones who are ready to make a change. If we can do that, then we can bring a change with respect to conflict, with respect to peace, with respect to political elevation. We can do a lot for the community. Assalamu alaikum.
Please, إحداهما على الأخرى فقاتل التي تبغي حتى تأتي إلى أمر الله. And I can see what you brought out about the enforceability of this. Enforcement. If one refuses to adhere to all the mediation, then you come together and then compel. So there's an idea of enforcement of peace, and I think it's something that we must pick up. In fact, Imam was saying this falls right in your quarters.
you allow me to do whatever. So you two give your take. Give your take.
I want to hope and pray that I will continue to do it better, inshallah. Earlier, Mr. Moderator, you gave my senior brother the opportunity to do an intro with regards to the presentation. But I believe he went with the intro and then he said this, and then I also want to adopt same approach. Yes, I also want to adopt same approach. Dr. Zagoon, thank you very much. The presentation is very wonderful, very academic, also very practical. Clearly telling us that you know exactly what you see, and also you have a practical experience with regards to the issue you were presenting. I have 1, 2, 3 things to presented here as a panelist. Like my brother said, the Islamic approach to Islamic principles of justice and conflict, conflict resolution, that has to do with verse 499, that clearly asks to if the other party refuses to accept or admit to peace, full coexistence, therefore the need for us to do the other thing. This is where it's so important and must also be defined when considering the law, especially in our context here in Ghana. I don't know if you are so much into the social media. Recently, what happened in Nigeria, there was a young man who normally will come out and do a whole lot of things that is anti-Islam with regards to nudity, speech, very bad. Then the family decided to, identify him, catch him, and gave him a serious treatment. This is somebody who has family and children, but decided to go to the social platform to do other things that was contrary to the teachings and values of Islam. In this case, the family decided to teach him medicine, get him to his house, repay him, and in their effort or in their approach, they felt they were directing him. Well, in our traditional context, this may be right, trying to do somewhere right, but because we operate within the context of the law, it is important you look at the implication of what you do, whether it goes contrary to the laws of your country or not. For me, that is also very important. So even when we decide to put others right, when we have conflict and misunderstanding or whatever it is important that we ensure whatever we do to bring the other party to the board, or in doing what is right, we must consider the law, that we are not going beyond the law, which is very important for me. That is where 499. Now, when my brother was looking at this aspect of these conflicts, challenges that we have in the West African countries. In fact, I just want to make a comparison. I want to see what is our challenge as Muslims. You see, what is happening today in Niger, very unfortunate. In Ghana here, as Ghanaians, we always see the repercussion. Look at our streets now. Just take out here, Kada was the station they call Kabuli. Look at the type of people who are there begging. Go to Medina, go to Legon, your area. Just as you came out,
from the university. Very important places. This place again, 37, the government seat, Jubilee House. Just recently, Jubilee House, they did very well to condemn over there. It's having information, just, the scene over there wasn't the best. But they also came down to Afrikiku. You'll find our people, our own people there. Why do I say our own people? They are Muslims. More clearly, you see them with this type of clothes. And secondly, with what? Veil. Now, these are people who, they are just young ones and women. Where are the husbands? The men. On my own, I try to go beyond to see exactly. Normally, what I see on the streets, the things I see on the streets are women and young ones. And I realize, look, they are with their men, but their men are where? And they are in the houses. At home. So the children get out there, get money, and then take them at home. And they are there to see. Because I want closer to see exactly what is happening. Well, the point I'm trying to make is this. These are people who are from a neighboring country, Niger, and most of them are Muslims. And they are out there begging, doing certain things that negate the very principles of Islam. Begging, Islam doesn't accept it. The same situation happened to Liberia and Sierra Leone, and they were in Ghana here. They were in Ghana here. But we never saw them getting out of Bujumbura and whatever on the streets to come and beg for arms. Probably you may say at that time, the government of the day organized Bujumbura for them, probably they have some support or whatever. But all they say, they are human beings. And I believe what they were giving wouldn't be a dialogue to them. But you will never see them coming out on the street to them. So, where is the challenge? Why us? This is where I want to go to Mr. Kama's point, where he made a statement. Whether is it Islam that encourages us to do so or not? This is the point that I believe we have to look at. Again, as Ghanaian Muslims, what are we doing, or what do we think we can do? These people who are on the street, what sort of help we can do to these people? Point number 3. Doc, you were speaking of these inter and intra conflicts, and you came to the point of religion. Just this year we were lucky, the sighting of the moon. Sighting of the moon. We were very lucky, we all started at what? Skiing. But you forget about the barrier. No problem. But you see, there was an earlier preparation. Because look at the streets in our country. There are people, the moment they hear something has sighted the moon, they watch. And more importantly to the ordinary person, now on social media, on television, internet, the moment they start, they saw or when they started Tarawih, they saw Makkah, they can't hold it. But also to join and perform prayer of Tarawih. This year, we were lucky, we all started at one time. My point is, this challenge has been with us many years. What are we doing better so that we can bring the various groups together? And this is something I believe we can agree upon. So let me end here because they have a whole lot of things to do. But this for now is something I bring another subhanahu wa ta'ala. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I mean, very good points. Okay. All right.
Have patience and try and finish whatever we have, and then we pray at 1 o'clock. Yes. So nobody should be in a hurry. In fact, we have sheikhs here. They will tell you what we are doing now is also praise, inshallah. So with your permission, the prayers will go on outside, but we will pray at 1 o'clock. Is that acceptable by my sheikhs? All right. Okay.
Sama, with your permission, before I get to the next two, our very good friend, a parish priest from Legon wants to make a village here.
Not important. Our two sheikhs here have spoken, and nobody has spoken about poverty. So the next two speakers, please, you will be self-noticed. Talk about how to get Muslims out of poverty. Whatever you have, add that one to it. Thank you.
Be a little bit better. So, Chairman, with your permission, we invite the parish priest from St. Legon to make a few interventions because he wants to leave for another summit. So, please, with a round of applause, let's welcome him. For
inviting me, especially my brother there, who resembles me in the beard, bringing me the letter, and that I'll be coming for the subsequent ones as well. We have the one the 15th and the one the 22nd. I will try to hear to my assistant. Say thank you so much. It's very interactive, educative, and I pick few thoughts for myself and for the community as well. And so God bless you. I want to thank my lecturer, Dr. Zagoon-Sayeed. For those who don't know, he lectured me in the University of Canada at my PhD level. He has been part of the panel that educated me to get through to my PhD studies. So thank you very much, Dr. Zagoon. I always send a message to him that he will give me the soft copy of the wonderful presentation. Briefly, I want to say that I grew up in a Muslim community. I stayed in the Masalachi myself. I've grown to learn how to go to the Ramadan myself from the age 10 because my aunts are all Muslims. They live in Newtown and Sakama and all that. I'm a Muslim child. I'm part of you. And so I love Muslims. And thank you to God. For the past 4 years that I have been in the Muslim territory in Nima, let me tell you, you are peaceful people. Very peaceful. And I'm happy in Nima. The question I'm asking now is that why are you peaceful? There are some who are spoiling your good image. Like my doctor said, and then two are panelists. So the question is why? Why are few spoiling the good image of Allah, the good image of Muslim, because we are so peace, salam. I'm going to leave this by saying that let's try and do something about it. Because even wherever one or two people are mentioned as being people part of the problem in Ghana, you may get one or Muslim name, which is not the best, but the whole people are good. I want to encourage you, do not sleep. We have a lot to do to regain the image, because we need to bring back that sanctity and the insanity of the Muslim fraternity. And I will be part of this journey with you. I want to encourage you. Thank you very much for the opportunity. We love you. And I want to send a message to our father, the National Imam, that we love him so much. And I want to ask, what food does he eat? The man is growing, he's still strong. So if I can help me, you're my brother, help me to help me that we love him, and for him to celebrate centenary anniversary, to go to the Catholic Church. We love him so much. God bless you. I want to leave you with it as well, and I'll come back next week. Thanks so much. And I'll be visiting on Friday in your program, next Friday. You're inviting me to your house. I'll be there.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Father. This one dimension of this program that is very, very lively and very memorable. Like the point that the chairman made reference to the poverty, but I think that we need to highlight how conflicts bring about poverty, and how does it impact other people and create the situation of poverty. For example, displacement of the people, breadwinners that are being killed, and so on and so forth. Children losing the opportunity for education to develop themselves. These are all issues that run around poverty. So maybe you can, the last two, you can emphasize whichever dimension you want to do. So Dr. Hafiz, I come to you. The mic.
We grew up in his hands, and I see Shakira here, my own brother Zagoon and ACP. I'm just happy, and I'm still just worried about time. We should not be worried about time. What Zagoon said, well, I feel it has a lot. He took a topic that is open-ended and found a nexus between all these issues. I don't think he left anything else. So even if we live with that alone, without seeing a thing, that should have been enough. But once we are here, we teachers talk. So we must say something. One thing that touched me in this presentation was the issue of positive peace. That's the anchor of Islam. You find it all over the Quran. I'll take two examples from Nabi Ibrahim. He made two prayers. One is Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, verse 1 to 6. And one is Surah Al-Ibrahim 14:35, if I'm not mistaken. The first one is رَبِّ اجْعَلْ هَذَا بَلَدًا آمِنًا وَارْزُقْ أَهْلَهُ مِنَ الثَّمَرَاتِ, to the end of the verse. He prayed, oh Allah, render this. He was referring to a desert. Render this desert a city, turn it into a city that is peaceful. That wasn't the focus of his prayer. The focus was وَارْزُقْ أَهْلَهُ مِنَ الثَّمَرَاتِ. But he knew that food and economy will not come without peace. So he put the foundation of peace. Make this desert peaceful. And then you bless the indigents of those deserts with wealth. So he's telling us directly that without peace, there cannot be wealth. But then you go back down to 14:85 in Surah Ibrahim, he said, رَبِّ اجْعَلْ هَذَا الْبَلَدَ. This time around, he rendered the balada ma'rafah. He rendered it definite. The other one, the place was baladan, was indefinite. And scholars got confused. Allah cannot speak with two tongues. He's referring to the same thing. But the contexts are different according to Mama Lucy. The first one was a desert, but this was the second visit when the place had turned into a city. He wanted to pray for religious worship, but he emphasized that without peace, there cannot be religion. So he said, هذا البلد آمنا واجنبني وبني أن نعبد الأصنام, and prevent me and my offspring from worshiping idol. The fact that he prefers it with peace means that any religion, that the rituals that we do without peace, they can't do them. So Zagoon was right. Dr. Zagoon was very right. Nothing can be achieved without peace. And in Islam, peace is not absence of war. It encompasses everything. And these are aspects of the basis that proves that. That takes us to the question that we have to address. How does Islam confront poverty? What system does Islam have for poverty? We are the only religion, the Reverend is I'm not saying comparative religion, but I'm not aware of any religion that has zakat. I'm giving as a pillar. All the religions have encouragement, all religions can take care of poor. But we are the only religion that has zakat as one of the means of redistribution of wealth. In fact, when you read the Quran, 2 times, Allah linked zakat with salat. He mentioned the zakat is used in the context of giving alms in 32 times. But in 28 of these days, Allah link did not separate between zakat and salat. Where you came in salat, where you zakat. And you find it all over to tell you that next after salat comes zakat. You take it from there. Islam recognize when Islam recognizes that zakat is a pillar of Islam, I think you tell all Muslims that you must endeavor to be rich. Because you can't give zakat without being rich. How can you be rich without working? So the working is the first, before zakat, they must be work. Otherwise, everyone will be waiting to receive. And who will give? So Islam emphasizes the issue of working. Any man or woman who comes of age must work and earn so that he or she can give what? Zakat. If you want to appreciate how much effort Islam or emphasis Islam has laid on working, just go back to Surah Al-Jumu'ah. When Allah calls us, إِذَا نُودِيَ لِلصَّلَاةِ مِنْ يَوْمِ الْجُمُعَةِ فَاسْعَوْا إِلَى ذِكْرِ اللَّهِ وَذَرُوا الْبَيْعَ. It means we have to go to work first. It's the only day. That's the week, only day of the week. You go to stay in the house and go and pray, come and rest. Those of the Sabbath Christians do. They don't do anything at all. You call people working and say, I'm not working today. But Allah appreciates the fact that we need the wealth to pay the zakat. So He asks us to go and work. So first was leave the work. But when you finish the work, for example, Allah says, "Fantashiru, immediately leave the prayer ground, because the religion is not about the 4 corners of the mosque. Go there and engage and get the word. And then go and look for the favor of Allah, which is wealth." Once Umar came out of the mosque and saw a group of young men, immediately after Jumu'ah, they were seated, talking. He said, "What are you people doing?" They said, "We have put our trust in Allah." As if they heard the Prophet saying that, لو أنكم تتوكلون على الله حق توكله لرزقكم ما يرزق الطير. If you people will put your trust in Allah, Allah will enrich you as He enriches the bird. They forgot that there was Illa Tabdu Himason. She gets up in the morning and walks. So she's working. So when they misinterpreted the verse, as some people do with jihad and so on, Umar said, "You are muta'akilun or mutawakkilun. You are liars." Mutawakkil, the one who put his trust in Allah, is the farmer who sowed his seed and is not sure whether it will rain or not. At least he has done something. Get up. He used his staff to hit them. Get up, because you know the heavens don't rain gold, and the diamond will bring the earth. You have to work and earn. How are you on the show with the burden? You walk over the street and you feel sad that Muslims are the one representing poverty in this country. This is not good. And I came to the Prophet in the hadith of Aisha, I think the son of Abu Dawood, and then the man came and was begging. But asked him, "Why are you begging? Don't you have anything in the house? Do you have anything at all in the house?" He said, "Yes, I have a bed, a cloth, part of which I wear and part of which I lay down on, and just a small bowl, wooden bowl, which I use in drinking." But they go and bring them. He went and brought the two. In some of the narration, he said he only brought he asked him to bring the cup. And the person said, "Who will buy this? Are you going to share it? I'll have in some of the Dawood. Who will buy these items?" A man said, I'll pay 1 dirham for them. Another said, "I'll pay 2. In fact, I kept asking 3 times, and someone said, "I'll pay 2. He took the 2 dirham and said, "Go and buy 1, divide it into 2, 1, buy food with it, and buy a piece of metal and bring it." He bought a piece of metal, Prophet made it to be framed into an axe. He himself used his hand to tie it with a rope and said, "Go, move out from now. I don't want to see you for 15 days. For 15 days, I don't want to see you." The man came back after a while, within 3 weeks, 1 month thereabout. He came with 10 dirham. He had bought food and items, clothes for his wife and other things. The Prophet saw him smile, being with smile. He said, "Isn't this better than you going to ask people and then you came on the day of judgment with a flesh of your meat dropped out of your face. This is figurative. Losing face, as we say in our Sayara, you come without any value, which is better. He said, La tahil mas'ala illa li salasin. Begging is not permissible, it's only for 3 people. Someone who is extremely poor, fakrul mudka, or someone who is in serious debt, or someone who has a blood money on his head. There is still another person has been asked to pay here, and there's no way you can raise the money. These are the only people who are permitted to pay temporarily until their issues are sorted out. We have all these teachings in Islam. Then you come and ask, do they play on the ground? How do they reflect on the ground? Let's just say there's a kind of gulf between the theories and the practice. And it behoves on us as Muslim intellectuals to find solutions to those problems. And I'm glad Hijra represents a change. Trying to migrate us from our poor situation to a better situation, and may Allah make that happen. I will stop here for
that gulf. You have all this knowledge. It is your responsibility to get us to understand these things. It's not good enough coming to say it here. I would want to see the practicality. I would want to see a lot more of our learned, ulama stating it like you said and pushing it. Because too many of our people are just lazy. It's like prayer, prayer, prayer. So I'm happy you'll be able to say whatever you have been able to say. Mr. Moderator, the next person who is going to come, I would want him to also relate poverty to knowledge. Does knowledge in any way bring about poverty? And when I talk about poverty now, I'm not talking about money in your pocket alone, but in its totality.
The issue of what we need to do about the enforcement of zakat. So I was thinking of, to eradicate poverty, the issue of the zakat fund, endowment fund as concepts, and how we can bring them into practical use. Because these are concepts that are just the idea of pursuing decent jobs as a means of dealing, but that has to do. But that brings us now to the point which is our last speaker will talk on the issue that has to do with not just the knowledge, but the kind of skills that we need as part of the journey towards eradication of poverty, and still trying to find the links between conflicts. Because the focus is that we're saying conflict has something to do with poverty. Yeah, so find a way to connect these for us. Thank you.
Imam and Dr. Hafiz. So if Dr. Zagoon is a teacher in knowledge, then Sheikh Sibawi is a grand teacher. And Imam Hussein knows me very well because I'm about 10 years ago I used to request the government mosque to listen to his tafsir and Sheikh Abed's tafsir. So sitting here actually places me in a very difficult situation, especially to comment on something Dr. Zagoon has presented. And I was happy when I later found out that Dr. Naila would be coming. Because I'm writing my thesis and and she's making things so difficult for me. And I was imagining sitting here with Dr. Naila to digest of this issue. So conflict is something that I've been studying. And I want to take attention a bit of the presentation. Because the presentation, Dr. Zagoon looked at it from one dimension. So from what we said, conflict is not entirely bad. You understand? We looked at the destructive side of it and the constructive side of it. And sometimes you even argue that to have electricity, you need the positive and the negative. You need a type of friction. And you need a type of impedance to get productivity. And so when you look at conflict from a constructive perspective, that is positive. And that even the companions of the Prophet when they had disagreements over whether to write down the Quran or not, in the end they wrote down the Quran and we have benefited from it. That is constructive conflict, or what we call occasional conflict. It happens
but it is not the norm. The kind of conflict which is very problematic is that kind of conflict which is not productive and which is chronic. It persists and it's not productive. So Kenneth Bolden, Galton, so Galton is the Sheikh of Islam of conflict and peace studies. He has a colleague that he works with. He's called Bolden, Kenneth Bolden, and he talks about stable war and stable peace, unstable war and unstable peace. And he discusses this issue. Now, when that issue happens, and in thinking about the solution, the first thing that comes to your mind is to fight. That we are dealing with, unstable peace. You have peace, but it's unstable. But when you have an issue and in solving it, you are thinking about using systems to solve it. Then he says that is unstable war because you are dealing with systems. For most part of the Muslim world, and unfortunately, I have to say this, so we have to learn lessons. Whenever we have issues, immediately, what do we think about as a solution? Fighting. Now, some have linked it intrinsically to the kind of curriculum you go to, number one. Number two, the kind of culture we have as a people. Dr. Hafiz mentioned the situation in Niger, Imam also. Niger is not the only poverty-stricken place. You look at a place like Bangladesh, very impoverished. But before the arrival of the British in what is today's India, Bangladesh and India and Pakistan, the Bay of Bengal was the richest place on earth. Today, GDP, world GDP, US contributes about 23%. The Bay of Bengal contributed 25%, part of India's economy, contributed more than what US is contributing to. What happened? Just because the system changed, they moved from a very wealthy society to a very impoverished place. And when you look at West Africa, that's what happened. We had a system in place which was working. When that system changed, that system didn't take into consideration our knowledge system and the things that we value. But because that system had to change, unfortunately, it impoverished us. And because West Africa is part of the Muslim world, we fell victims. And all what we see today is just an attempt to diagnose the proximate cause, but not the deep-rooted cause that Galton spoke about. In an attempt to, work on these, the structural causes will have to be looked at. The fact that, you are so alien to the Muslim community because the religion is so appealing to poor people. So if someone is growing up in such a system, for the person to even think about, making money and changing the kind of condition that he or she finds himself or herself in, then that becomes a very big challenge. So these are the structural causes that I want us to look at beyond today's program, in an attempt to get to the solution that Sheikh Elmer wants me to talk about. This is how I want us to look at it. But having said that, to comment a bit on the structure, there is something we call securitization theory. And I hope we will understand this topic from another dimension when we get the concept of securitization theory. So there is this perspective in security studies, and Professor Eni subscribes to that perspective. That came out of Denmark, the Copenhagen School. They have a concept called securitization theory. That whenever someone wants to achieve an objective, the person intentionally securitizes an issue. So everyone begins to think that there is a problem. Meanwhile, that problem doesn't really exist. To give an example, the war in Iraq. I was in JHS when the war started, and I remember very well, because I came out of a household that my dad loved watching news. So I knew what happened. We all knew US invaded Iraq because of WMD, weapons of mass destruction. Am I right? Yeah. Did they find any? No. Exactly. But why are we not talking about WMD today? Because the objective has been achieved. So Professor Eni will tell you securitization theory in effect worked on the Muslim community. WMD didn't exist. But because someone needed to enter and take advantage of the situation, they securitized the discourse, and we all agreed with it. Recently, Libya, there was a reason why Libya was invaded, human rights. But what is happening in Libya today? And so that is basically securitization theory. So when we discuss issue of Islam and issue of conflict, let's have at the back of our mind that the religion itself and those who are at the forefront, they know very well. In fact, they know Islam better than most of us. Because there are people who advise them and who draft policies. They know that this has nothing to do with Islam. But because there is an objective that someone wants to achieve, use Islam as the scapegoat. Why are you using Islam? Because Islam has a different set of structures. Islam operates differently. Islam, so looking at the economic system, Islam has its own economic system. Now, if I don't agree with it, do you think I'll make the environment conducive for the Islamic economic system to thrive? When I know that the thriving of an Islamic economic system will affect the kind of system that I have. So these are the things that I want us to look at. You know, securitization theory. The other thing that I also want us to look at as part of the structural forces, intrinsically as a community, we are a group of different people. So long as we think that the Moshi Muslims are better than the Hausa Muslims, then there's a problem. So long as we think that the Mongolian Muslims are better than Kusasi Muslims, then there is a problem. And unfortunately, I have been observing the happenings in Boko on social media. It's an ethnic conflict, not a religious conflict. One side is predominantly Muslim, the other side is not predominantly Muslim. But believe me, it is the Muslims who are dying. It's the Muslims on both sides who are dying. Like from what we get on social media, that doesn't get to the mainstream media. It's the Kusasi Muslims who are dying, and it's the Mongolian Muslims who are dying. It's rather unfortunate. And so if we want to really work around this, the structural causes, so long as we see each other, that person is better than the other person, then we are far away from solving this. How is poverty linked to all of this? For a number of people, conflict breeds poverty. But I want to look at it the other way around. Poverty is what breeds conflict. And to understand this, when I heard this for the first time, I had a difficulty grasping this until I visited parts of northern Nigeria. And the day I found myself in northern Nigeria, and I'm like, I understand why these people are fighting. Poverty stricken. And so within the, you know what we study, there is a debate ongoing, greed over grievance. You know, causes of conflict. Some are saying it is greed. Others are saying it is grievance. And greed feeds on poverty. That's what greed feeds on. And you know, Sheikh Karima is like he just from Salam alaikum.
Very, very clear. Necessary dimensions of it. Because in the presentation, I can see everyone is preparing, apart from the dimensions, the solutions that we are preparing for be able to deal with this. The idea of centralization theory, for example, excites me a lot. I have not heard it before. And the issue of the cultural dimensions of conflict, for me, is also something that, why is that within the Muslim community we have to capture this? When something little sparks, we are unable to stay and then think through. But the next thing we are thinking of the gun or the cutlass. And that is why, pardon me, even politically, the Zongo community has become easy, supply of those if they want. Because for us, we can easily get excited. And I think then the issue of the poverty orientation, after our community, eulogizes poverty from the way that we have thought of people. So if a rich man is saying, this world is nothing, this world, that sort of thing. So then we don't even aspire. I say this world is nothing. And I think those things, we need to contextualize those teachings very well. So I wouldn't discourage those who want to really work hard and make money. Without money, you cannot pay zakat. So if we are all poor, then I don't see where we can get to. So I think these are very, very good points, and I think I'm excited about them. The chairman will make his final comment. Thank you so much. Now we will go to the larger audience. By 1 o'clock, we have to leave this place. 1 o'clock, we will leave this place. So please, you make your point. If it's a comment, direct, and then very short. If the question, don't make too long remarks so that you can give others a chance also to be able to ask the question. So you will run with the mic. So let me see the first hand up.
Suggestion is Aisha Ibrahim from West African Senior High School. And my suggestion is we should introduce Hijra Club in senior high schools and universities so that it can grow as we do in the future. And also I want to ask whether ladies are also part of the club, because I'm not seeing ladies.
Hijra Club for organizing this wonderful lecture, and to our respected ulamas, we are very grateful for your valuable contribution. My question goes to Dr. Zagoon on conflict. And the question is, how can societies transition from negative peace to positive peace? And what role do governance, media, and civil society play in sustaining long-term peace? Thank you very much. My name is Ubaid Omar. I'm a practicing journalist and a writer as well from the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation.
But before then, in all humility, Chair has said that most of our ulamas are not actually being persuasive when it comes to sharing knowledge, as my good brother Tafiz did make in submission. And Chair, one challenge I have with our Muslim brothers and sisters is that even when our sheikhs want to share that knowledge, we are so intolerant, we are not ready to listen. For example, as part of my PhD, I read law. Just last 2 or 3 weeks ago, a church called Church of Pentecost at Buju invited me to come and give a lecture because my studies to the use of media in resolving conflict and disputes within the civil service. You know, and you go to the mosque, you have to share something about basic laws. Because those who are really affected when it comes to the enforcement of the law, most of us are Muslims. I always cite this instance, that when you go to East Legon, there's a police station there. Ironically, most of the inmates are not from East Legon. Most of them come from the Zongo dominated communities like Nima, 441, Medina, Ashama, and so on and so forth. Because when even somebody comes and the person wants to impart that knowledge, just understand your basic right as a Ghanaian. The chair, the people are not ready. Last week I made some good money because a church invited me. I went there to share knowledge. Another church also invited me. All this week or tomorrow, inshallah, I'll go again. You go to the mosque, you want to give free knowledge. Check, the people are not ready. I don't know if people would like to interpret or appreciate what Dr. Abi said, that come and worship as soon as we finish. I don't know if that's the interpretation and understanding of our people. So I think our sheikhs are doing very well. But you see, look at this important function. Look at attendance. But I'm sure if there to be any other program, Mr. Chair, you will see a bigger number. But all the same, it's not there. The quantum is the quality of what some of us have gained. But let me just ask my question now. Sorry for this long preamble. Sheikh Zagoon, I like the way you try to simplify your definition of conflict. You know, I come from the realm of law. You know, we talk about civil conflict in law, criminal conflict in law. And I want to say this. When it comes to civil conflict in law, the rules allow that a method in law called alternative dispute resolution can be used to resolve that. But when it comes to criminal conflict of law, that is where the offense is against the state. For example, incest, murder, manslaughter, rape, defilement. These are serious offenses. And as part of the research, you see that some of our ulamas or our chiefs, you know, have given themselves that mandate, that power of the court. Okay. Should I? Okay. Sorry.
Otherwise, it's going to be another.
No. I mean, they've used that mandate, that power that the Constitution or the basic laws are not giving them to make an attempt to resolve those criminal offenses. In that case, is there any way that within our country's studies that criminal offenses or criminal matters can be resolved by our chiefs or our ulamas? Thank you very much. So for the long submission.
Regarding, I think the first question was why aren't we in the high schools? I think that's a good idea, and I think it's something we will be looking to do. We'll have to go, since our goal is to provide scholarships to university tertiary education, the source of those tertiary education are the high schools. So it just makes sense that we go to the high schools and advertise and then try and ensure that we get the students to apply, the Muslim students, the Zongo students, the gifted students but needy students. We'll have to do that, and I think that's a good idea. Regarding female in Hijra, that's also a good idea. It's something that was done in the past. Hijra is, since 1992, and they had a female wing. For one reason or the other, that wing became inactive. So it's not that we don't have, we have, but it's inactive now. And it's something that we will have to look into establishing again. Basically, Hijra Club, although we said it started from 1992, for a while it almost plateaued. And then in the last few years, it's revived again, right? So in this revival mode, we are looking at doing a lot of new initiatives.
Tackle certain basic needs of society, certain basic issues that we face in society. And like you know, a lot of these militant groups who want to bring disturbance to any community, they actually feed on things that are not done for the ordinary people and fuel it and get people to support them too. And so if, for instance, in Ghana, I'm not too sure whether we are positive peace yet in Ghana, but people are in Ghana, but they are hungry. People don't have jobs. Young people don't have jobs. And then I hear people saying this is a time bomb waiting for us. These are indications of negative peace. And so, what is the role of media? We have to raise these issues for leaders to tackle them. Raising the issues, setting the agenda, and ensuring that you are bringing them to the public space for those who must tackle them to tackle them. And once we target those basic needs of the people, then we can now graduate from there to positive peace. So peace issues are something that must be ongoing until we get to that. Yes, now my brother, the Islamic way of resolving conflict is actually this alternative dispute. But even Islam also recognize that the heavy crimes, there's a way to deal with it. For instance, if you kill somebody intentionally in Islam, they wouldn't sit at on the table and say, "Oh, go." Islam has provided what must be done, including even paying blood money, as he mentioned. Okay, and so yes, within our context in Ghana, I don't expect any Muslim to want to short, certain criminal cases that might go to the court. But Islam's objective is to even prevent us from getting to that point. That is why issues of morality and character is critical. I know you know this hadith. The Prophet said he was actually commissioned as a prophet to come and perfect morals. So that is the duties of the Muslim community. That whether imams or leaders, our main duty is to nurture our children in a way that they wouldn't get into all this. That would be get them into bigger crimes like men. Thank you.
One is for AC. I have two questions. The first one is for AC.
We can hear you.
ACP said sometimes he mentioned an incident that happened in Nigeria where they disciplined somebody. I think they did that Islamically. So which one do we choose? the Islamic way of doing things or what happens in the country. I mean, I won't say the legal, because the Islamic way to is legal. And if, honestly, I think the Islamic way is better, and I do it that way, then the law comes in and says what I did was illegal. That puts me in a very serious situation.
That's right.
Secondly, I think it was the next speaker about zakat. I'm very concerned about that because I honestly believe in Ghana, maybe about 80% of Muslims cannot afford to pay zakat. They can do the sadaqah. If I'm driving and I see somebody and I give you 1 cedi, yes, I'm giving him sadaqah, but is that what the intention is? And if I don't have enough money in a year, there's no way I can pay zakat. It's only sadaqah that I can afford to do. So what do you say to that? Thank you.
That you want to look at. There's this issue that was brought to me that somebody killed the father. He's been doing, these bad things, drinking and that sort of thing. Now the family, that's about 10 years ago, the family has forgiven him. But the law is holding on to him. He's actually at Lima police station now. The family has forgiven him because Islam allows this type of thing to be dealt with, from the family point of view. Whereas the states, if you kill somebody, they don't have anything. I would want you to add that one to it. There are quite a number of things. There was an issue where some lady was at Takaba is when, and she didn't perform too well. So, according to people, the imams there, that type of I don't want to call it sin. That type of action required that she should be killed. And it was a big issue because the laws of Ghana, under the laws of Ghana, she might have done something, not too pleasant, but she hadn't committed a sin that required her to be killed. So in your answers, maybe you can look at this bigger issue of Islam or Islamic Sharia versus the established law. Yes. All right.
Even though on retirement they have helped relieving some financial burden on me, on some of my children, I say a very big thank you. My question is, before I mention what follows, what pragmatic measures can we put in place to bring peace? One, when the first panelist and the last panelist actually spoke about the conflict in Boku, I was very much touched. It was said, all those who are dying, obviously, you can say about 99% of those dying in the conflict in Boku are Muslims. What do? We have brains like my lecturer, Sheikh Zimbabwe Zakaria. 2, discipline is breaking down, totally deteriorating, especially in our second cycle institutions. There have been certain unhealthy happiness within the schools, particularly within Accra. All of a sudden we heard of some, Waliwali and other places. Then of late, Christian Methodists, we said no, it's not really about our Muslims. We were thinking that it's about our Muslim children in the school. They were trying to see what we can do in our own small way from the advisory board of the National Chief. But looking at the nature of the indiscipline, it's not about our children. But there is an adage in Hausa, when the beard of your neighbor is on fire, you dampen yours. I think that's not the best. You help him to quench his. So, Boko conflict. We have brains like my brother Bashir. I was overwhelmed the way you delivered about peace. What do we do? What roadmap do you think you can draw to assist? My sheikh, my brother, Imam, we say, you are a spiritual officer. What do you think we can do, at least to bring down, even if not completely stopping the conflict, but bringing down the ferocity of the nature of the conflict down in Boku? It's serious. Thank you.
My name is Haruna Zagoon-Sayeed. I'm a journalist, and I work with the Media Foundation for West Africa. Journalist by training, I should say. I would also like to touch on the admission we have made here that Islam has been misrepresented as a religion that is for the poor and which has been partly responsible for the reflex for receiving that we are experiencing rather than forgiving. And I think that it is important that we bring people up with a certain type of training. So if that was wrong, what are we prescribing in order to change the situation? I think GIPSA is a very powerful tool that we can use. Yes. Dr. Sibawe mentioned that as far back as the 80s, they had to go and borrow a video deck. I was president of GIPSA in Ashanti region some time ago, and the culture is always to go out and seek support. But I think that it is important that we get Hijra and other organizations to hold the hands of the GIPSA executives and ensure that we inculcate in them the culture of paying their dues as a way of bringing them up to be Muslims who are ready to give. I am on a platform where someone said they want to give money and support to Muslim students who are fasting. And then someone was asking for support for Muslim students in Islamic Senior High in Kumasi. That is a school of 6,000 students, at least 4,000 of whom are Muslims. And I was saying, no, Islamic Senior High doesn't qualify. Because if you're about 4,000 Muslims and you pay 15 cedis, Ghana cedis as, 15 Ghana cedis as GIPSA dues every 10, everybody is paying 45 Ghana cedis a year. Multiply that by 4,000 and see what they can do. So it is important for us to recognize our potential and own it. Thank you very much.
Asking the panelists to link conflict with poverty. I was very much interested, and I've heard a lot what they said. What we are putting in place in Zakat Fund now is a strategy in mobilization of funds for Muslims to see how much they have lost in the past 100 years without respecting the Zakat institution in Ghana, and also how much we are likely to lose. So what we did is to put the government's statistics together, and with our 13 years experience in Zakat Fund, we divided the whole Ghana, Muslims in Ghana, into 3 categories. And the first category requires that, came out with the figure, that we can have 200,000 Muslims now, minimum number, that are on public sector payrolls and private sector payrolls. And that alone, when we look at on the average zakat that they pay monthly, or they must pay monthly on their salary, monthly or annual, we are arriving at 240 million Ghana cedis. That alone, and that's the minimum figure.
Imagine if you arrive at just even 10% of that figure, how much it will be for us. And that's category A. Category B, we realize that we can have corporate zakat, which is being practiced in so many countries. We came out of 200,000 Muslim-owned businesses, small scale, medium scale, and that alone is going to give about 2 billion Ghana cedis. Just taking basic rates that our people have on our records already. That's the minimum figures, 2 billion Ghana cedis. You realize that not all the category C composed of Muslims who don't own their own businesses, they don't also earn regular monthly salary. And we are coming on the first 1 million Muslims who can at least afford 1 Ghana cedi a day. And that alone, as you can see, 1 million cedis a day, therefore 360 million cedis a year. Put the three together, we are talking about 2.6 billion Ghana cedis a year. As Chairman said, even if you have 10% of that figure, what he feared is already solved. Just 10%. So we are promoting this idea so that Muslims will get to see what you have lost in the past 100 years and what you are likely to lose if you are still standing at the same point. Today, we can boast of even 0.01% of that figure. It means we haven't taken the zakat institution as a serious pillar. And I think that when we are speaking, I will still sell the idea to all of us. We have came out even with an app that can just call on any business, Muslim-owned business, tell you to give us the figures that you have in the terms of your mineral holdings, your bank deposits, your merchandise at the end of the year, your cattle or whatever you have, and we can come up with a zakat ability and come up with a zakat that is due to you, what you are eligible to. Because people don't even know how much they should pay, whether they are paying less or more. We have that department in place already. So I'm only selling this idea. When we get to know that we have lost 2.6 billion in the past 100 years, and we're
Muslims to apply the laws themselves. We have institutions to do so. Matters that are applied, the institutions must handle it. That is the point, very clear. Yes, we are encouraging Islam, yes, but we have institutions that will do so. Institution that you have different rules. Probably when you apply yours, if they go contrary, you will be found culpable. Then it is important you also respect those institutions. It doesn't mean to say you have undermined your Islam values. No, that is not the issue. I believe this is very clear. Sheikh, are you? The point is this. Islamically, there are certain things that goes between you as an individual. It is for the institution to apply them. Like what the chairman said with regard to somebody who, at least we said that what the person did, it means she must be told or he must be told. It is for the individual to do so. It is for the institution to do that. But when you are having your living in a context that you can't apply it, you leave it out. And I'm saying it does nothing to your values as a Muslim. In other words, you allow the institutions to work, not the individual. That's the point that I'm making. There are certain things that are within your capability, or that it is them and you can handle them. That's the point I'm making. Thank you.
Is there any other Islamic dialogue in houses communities? You go to some mosque and you have an imam who stands there and speak in classical, in Arabic and reads, and there are issues in the communities that have not been addressed. So these are issues that we can look at. We want to make the gap between the theory and practice. On the issue of zakat, Muslim lobby, we brought up a figure 80%, which we believe. It's difficult to agree or disagree with the figure, but it goes back to the perception that we have about the conception of wealth and poverty in Islam. We've been trained to think that poverty should be welcomed. They tell you, Surah Hadith, the Prophet's house for 3 months, fire will not be lit in his house. They tell you he prayed that he wants to rise among the fuqara, Zubrat al-Masakin. They forget to tell you that he found you destitute and poor, and he enriched you. They forget to tell you that Islam never encourages poverty. What Islam encourages is asceticism. You have a thing, they don't care much about it. Zuhud. You must have it before you can show that you are Zahid. If you don't have money, so you don't like money, how can I be sure that you don't like it because you don't have it? You must have it to show that you don't care about it. It should not be that was what the Prophet was. So when you hear for 3 months, he was getting the money that he was spending. When he came to Bilal's room and saw some leftover of food that he has given out to be shared, he said, Bilal, what is this? He said, I kept it for you and your visitors, just in case. He said, Anfiq ya Bilal, wala takhsha min zil arshi iqlala. Feed the poor. Don't fear poverty from the one who gives, the one of the throne. So he was giving too much. That is why sometimes he doesn't have. But that doesn't mean he was poor. So we need to. And so Abu Bakar, in fact, Anas bin Malik's mother, and when the mother came to the Prophet, he said, this is your adibuk. Anas, your servant, Anas, pray for him for long life and prosperity. If prosperity was bad, the Prophet would not pray for him. He prayed for him, he became so successful and prosperous. So we need to look at that. We should change that perception about zakat as some superior-oriented people think. When they see poverty, they say, welcome the growth of the good people. No, that cannot be the growth of good people. Poverty in Islam is not a curse, but it's a trial. What is a bliss? Poverty is a trial. If Allah gives you them, He has given you for trials. But we have to know that the zakat was made compulsory as a pillar of Islam because Allah wants us to work and earn money and give zakat. So if you have 80%, we should work and reduce the number down to as much as possible. By the way, zakat is not the only means of the system that Islam has. There are so many of them. When you have atonement of sins, when you have to feed the poor, all of these are means of alleviating. And you mentioned sadaqah. In fact, there are times sadaqah fetch more money than zakat. Zakat is just 2.5%, so that it doesn't kill your capital. They're out of your own free will and generosity, and you want to give and give and give. So the sadaqah can even be more valuable and bigger than the zakat because it has no limits. So we can also take advantage of that. First, we have to work on our perception that as Muslims we have to reach so that we can improve the lot of our people. But is that
research people on the conflict in clash, and we realize that what has been portrayed on the media is actually not a true reflection of what is happening. So someone says until your issue is being discussed on the media, then that's why you understand that a number of the things that are being discussed on air doesn't present a true reflection of what is happening. But because it's not your issue, we tend to consume it. One of the things you were told was, in your research, let's take the media out. And frankly speaking, we realize that conflict is a remnant of the colonial experiment. So that is actually one of the main reasons. One party feels that it has to continue its historical legacy, which was there before the arrival of the British. But when the British came, they interfered with that system. And that is what is creating the problem. So when you listen to the media, there is this attempt to paint one party as the main cause. Is not true. That party wants to preserve a heritage which was there long in the 16th, 17th century. Another party feels that no, we also need this. If those two parties can come to a compromise, okay, for a win-win situation, and that is what the Legon, and the ADR, they are working things at the two force parties are trying to work this out. We hope that in the end they will be able to. But believe me, let's stay away from the media discussion. It's not helpful, and allow us to
thinking of that issue. Because I remember there was an issue between him and a classmate of his who happens to belong to one of the conflicting parties. And because of some point he made, which was about neutrality, he was identified as supporting the other side. And he became an enemy to that particular person. and that made it difficult for him to even go to Boku as somebody from Boku. And I don't know for how long he has had to stay away from Boku because Boku is not safe. Suggestion is that I'm sure the Boku group is going to do very well, but I believe that, like in Ghana, we once had a National Reconciliation Commission, and the politicians have actually played a major role in keeping this conflict in Boku and other conflicts going, because they tend to benefit from the differences, because they think that if one particular group is for us, the other particular group for the others. So we should always make sure that we maintain, our friends who will vote for us. So politicians must be very careful, and I believe that the same politicians can play a very important role if, for instance, they can put up a Boku Reconciliation Commission to allow people to come out and say what they have suffered as a result of that conflict, so that at least that will soften, and give them some air of relief. And then secondly, what can be done after we have spoken about how they suffer. And thirdly, for everyone in the conflict to know that, look, we've all been victims. We have all lost people, and we all want Boku to come back to what it used to be. A peaceful is a town where there's a lot of business. If we are able to do that, I believe that we can help solve the Boku conflict. Now, the issue of fundraising, and somebody mentioned Jimsa cannot be poor. In fact, Jimsa is indeed poor. They pay the dues, but not everybody pays dues. But those who pay the dues, you ask, what happens to the dues? Many times, executives of particular Jimsa group have been known to have maybe mishandled Jimsa funds. So what happens to that? And so if you know that the Jimsa executives are going to mishandle Jimsa funds, how would you be so convinced to always come out and pay your dues? So there's a need for us to be honest and make sure that if we are keeping Jimsa executives, let's keep them honest, and those who seem very honest, not those who really can read the Quran so well and can be imams, because that doesn't guarantee honesty.
Where you are now.
That doesn't guarantee. It doesn't mean that all imams are like that. I'm talking about Jimsa imams. And then the issue of zakat and Kumasi, you want to make it maybe 5 cities. It's difficult to upgrade. Maybe there should be a way by the end of this Ramadan, reach out to all those who are contributing in that way to upgrade. I've been paying 1 city since the last so many years. Why should I pay more than that now? And I'm sure that I may have others like that. And then the issue of investment. I think that the zakat fund should find a way of investing the funds. So much fund that you are going to collect. What are you doing with them? Are they just sitting there and the inflation is eroding whatever you have collected? So let's think of incredible Islamic investment. And I also hear the national conference has made some proposals to government, including re-examining the issue of Islamic banking. How far can we go with that? How can we push that agenda so that we can have some Islamic banking system where we can invest whatever funds we have, and other Muslims can also make such positive investment, knowing that whatever investment they are doing is in line with Islam. Assalamu alaikum.
As a means to discourage this whole idea where we seem to see poverty as a virtue. The Prophet in his prayers is known to have prayed against poverty. And then he has hadith with the so you see how serious the matter is. My third point is there is this man who, the scenario where somebody came to beg from the Prophet. Yeah, he gave him, but he did not give him the money to go away. He gave him the money and told him, go buy an axe and a rope and bring it. So he went, bought the rope and an axe and brought it, and now directed him to a place where he could cut firewood. He directed him, said, go cut, tie the rope, the firewood, and bring it back to me. He did so and brought it. Now in the third direction is now, go this way, there's a market there. Go sell, and whatever money you make, bring it back to me. The young man went, it was sold, he brought it, and now said, then Prophet told him, always do this. Always do this. And after some time, the young man came and told him, Ya Rasulullah, I have been able to save money. I have got money. I have been able to feed my family, and I have been able to save money. So that is how we deal with it. So the practical way is to provide opportunity and change the orientation of the people, provide the necessary skills that as relates to the dynamics of new marketable jobs that we can be able to get. And Islam can really get us out of this. Thank you so much.
For West Africa, and some scholarship beneficiaries who are here. Someone traveled all the way from Wasi just to be part of this program, and he is the one standing there with his mic beside the cameraman that will witness all this while. Thank you for coming.
And I thought things were going to be very difficult. But alhamdulillah, we've been able to cover a lot of ground. I did say right from the start that what we are doing here today is only going to scratch the surface of the subject matter, because it's so very wide and deep. And what we've been able to do is, you can see a lot of coverage here. The cameramen and others are here. So I hear what we are going to produce is going to be something like some records which will be available. The idea is that those of us who couldn't come should have access to what we are saying. And there are quite a number of people here too who are very savvy in the new industry of WhatsApp and whatnot. So I'm recommending that you put a lot of these things out there onto the platforms, the various IT platforms, so that those who did not have the probably opportunity of coming to listen to us would get to hear whatever we are discussing. I want to thank everybody for the participation. I'm particularly happy that this gathering here is mostly young people and our families here. To our young people, you are the future. All these things we are doing here, all the changes that we are proposing and propounding the theories, I think you people should carry it. You people need to carry it. If there should be any change, if there should be any positive movement in what we want Islam to be, I think it's more on you than to the agents and the rest who are, I don't know how many of you play football or listen to soccer. You see, when you are given the yellow card, the second yellow card, it means you are out. So most of us here are on yellow card already. So the next yellow card will take us out. When you are there, no yellow card, nothing. I want you to start thinking seriously of whatever you've heard here. Get to us, whatever you think would help in bringing Islam one notch better than you made it, I think will be the good cause. I want to thank you for bearing with us and delaying the salat until this time now. So after the prayers that will be said to close this function. Oh, let me also say that we have a series of this, as you've been told. So next week, Saturday, inshallah, there will be another session, and then a third session before we close the Ramadan. On this note, I want to wish everybody here a very successful Ramadan. May Allah provide us with the means to do this Ramadan to the best of our abilities, so that we derive the very best lessons that will be available during this Ramadan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
And the form of announcement, we humbly request all students, especially you, the senior students, to humbly remain seated while we engage with some one or two information. Being a university student, if you want to remain, you can equally be there for us. Secondly, is to acknowledge the presence of Sheikh also from the office of Chief Imam. And as a way of announcement, next week, inshallah, we are hosting another session of the lecture, which is on the topic Islamic etiquette and how to make most refined human. And we have in presence here next week Dr. Fatima Suleimana, a lecturer from University of Ghana, to mark that day. And again, we're going to have a woman sitting there as part of the panel to motivate you. So don't get tired. We are not tired. When you come, we'll settle. Okay. Inshallah, we don't get tired. Come and get the knowledge. You say we should form Hijra at senior high school. So, and the university, if you don't come, we don't know what we're going to do. To wrap it up, I humbly hand over the mic to one of the key members of Hijra Club to give us the vote of that.
I want to request respectfully that even if you are not going to be part of the panel, you join us, because some of the views that you espouse will be very useful to us. My second request is, please, having enjoyed today's program, we're supposed to start at 10. You see, we didn't have enough time to be able to exhaust. And as I sit back here, I was enjoying every bit. So can I please request that we try and come here 9:30 next week? Please. Look, Ramadan is special. That's when you make this, you go the extra mile. So you are not living your ordinary life. It's not ordinary. So make the effort and come here at 9:30. The elders bring the others, join us, and so that we can benefit most from the program. So do you make a pledge to me? You make a pledge? 9:30? My elder brothers here, you make a pledge 9:30, Brother Sami, 9:30. Okay, the panelists, Ziba, I know you go to my Ziba, Dr. Habis, 9:30, you give me the pledge? Okay. Okay, the young man, can you give me a pledge 9:30 next week? Thank you so much for the pledge. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you.
In the following week, inshallah.
Inshallah.
So, we all give thanks to Allah for making this possible. We have some teething problems, but inshallah, next week, we'll start on time and finish on time. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Thank you very much.
يسأله من في السماوات والأرض كل يوم هو في شأن فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان سنفرغ لكم أيها الثقلان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان يا معشر الجن والإنس إن استطعتم أن تنفذوا من أقطار السماوات والأرض فانفذوا لا تنفذون إلا بسلطان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان يرسل عليكما شواظ من نار ونحاس فلا تنتصران فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فإذا انشقت السماء فكانت وردة كالدهان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان فيومئذ لا يسأل عن ذنبه إنس ولا جان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان يعرف المجرمون بسيماهم فيؤخذ بالنواصي والأقدام فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان هذه جهنم التي يكذب بها المجرمون يطوفون بينها وبين حميم آن فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان ولمن خلق